What is going on, everybody? In this video, I will be taking a look at the recently added McLaren Senna here on the Crew 2. Now, I'm really happy to see this car in-game, and I'm not going to lie, I kind of thought it was going to be added into the game eventually, and I'm really happy to see it on here. I love the detail of this car, and after seeing one in real life, I am amazed by how beautiful this thing actually is. So, opening the door up here, which I really love how these doors open up on this car as well. Now, getting a closer look at the interior of this car, let's go sit in this thing. There we go, let's start it up. Ooh, that sounds amazing. Let's take a listen. And then moving over to the wipers, let's see how these actually look. Pretty cool. And then here's the horn. Exactly what I expected. Now, the overall detail in this car, I have to admit, does look pretty nice. I love the carbon fiber. I love how the Sennas look. I mean, this thing is amazing. But besides that, let's go exit this vehicle and actually buy this thing now. So let's select it here. There we go. So in order to buy the new Senna, you'll have to spend over $1.3 million to get this thing. Now, I do believe that is with the season pass discount, so I think it'll be a little bit more than that. But let's buy this thing right now. So for me, I'm probably going to go with orange on there because I don't know why I like orange so much. And you can also do the black rims on the car as well. So buying this thing now, let's go customize it. Now, moving over to the visual part upgrades on the Senna. Now, there's actually a lot more than I originally thought because sometimes the hypercars don't really have that much that you can do to them. But luckily, the Senna has a good amount. So here are the hoods. Basically changes that to orange there. Mix of carbon fiber. Looks pretty nice. Not really digging that one too much. I don't really like how that looks on the car. Moving over to the front bumpers here. So the second one looks like it smokes out the headlights. Moving over to the third one. Ooh, it adds the orange splitter down there instead of the carbon fiber. It looks pretty nice. Now, obviously, depending on the color of your guys' car, this will be the same color there, so not orange for you. That actually looks pretty cool there. I kind of like that. Gives me a lot of race car vibes. Moving over to the next one, smoking out the headlights again. That is a huge splitter. My goodness, look at that. Look how big that is sticking out of the front of the car. Smokes out the headlights again. And the next one basically looks like a snowplow on the front of this thing. I don't really like how that looks, honestly. But I guess depending on the build you are going for with your car, that would actually look kind of nice on there. Then moving over to the front fenders. Now, crazily enough, you can actually wide body this car, which I will not do. But I guess I have to say it really doesn't look too bad on the car. I'm just not really feeling that too much. But let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments below with the wide body kit on this McLaren. So for this car, all you have is the black rims there, which I decided to put on the vehicle over the stock ones the car came with, which do look pretty good depending on the color you guys have of your vehicle. I think either one of these rims will look nice. Then you can also add all the rims that are already in the game as well, which I think these look absolutely horrible. And then moving over to the caliper colors on the McLaren. Now for this, I actually decided to go with blue to try to match the color of the vehicle there. I think this would look pretty nice. Let's add that. Moving over to the side mirrors. So here are the stock mirrors, which I actually think these look really good on the car already. Then moving over, we have the painted ones, which don't look too bad on there. Then we have those. Then we have the carbon fiber version of those. Then moving over to the skirts, there's only two of these, so the carbon fiber one on there. Then we have the painted one, looks pretty nice. Then moving over to the rear fender, so this will be the back part of the car being a wide body, which I have to admit actually looks pretty nice back here, and the fitment of the car looks pretty good as well. Not going to add that to the vehicle. Then moving over to the rear wings, now there's only going to be 3 of these you can do to the car. So the first one's stock, pretty much carbon on the top there, looks amazing. Then painting the back piece of the wing there looks pretty nice as well. And then the final one actually leaves the wing stock but paints the entire roof and top part of the car, which I have to admit, that does look pretty awesome. Then moving over to the rear bumpers, there's actually 15 of these you could do. So here's a stock one there. The next one changes the exhaust. I don't really like how that looks. Changes them again. That looks pretty cool. Kind of like that. Then it changes the bottom splitter there to make it orange and or the color of your vehicle. Then it goes to those again. Ooh, that looks kind of nice being painted as well. I actually really like the customization that you can do to this car. Was not expecting it to be like this, but at least we do have it on some of these hypercars, which is pretty awesome. Oh my, that looks kind of interesting. Basically just changing the exhaust, and it looks like it leaves everything else there for those. And then we're going to have, whoa, that looks insane. My goodness, look at that. I'm not gonna lie, this rear bumper actually looks pretty nice on this vehicle. And then moving over, you can also change the exhaust if you guys are not digging the ones that were already on there. And then finally, you can also do the interior color to the car if you would like to, but personally, I will probably leave this stock because I already love how this car looks inside. But that is pretty much it when it comes to the customization. Now, you guys can also add some vanity items if you would like to, like tires and smokes and all that good stuff, but I will probably leave all this off the vehicle. But anyway, guys, let's go do an outside look on the new McLaren Senna. Then I want to do a top speed run to see what this car can get to. Then I definitely have to take it into a hyper race to really see how this car can perform. So now, taking an outside look at the Senna, we can all agree this car does look really good. They did a great job on the detail. Now let's take a listen. Now, unfortunately, it is snowing right now when I was recording this, so it might make this a little bit weird because who would actually drive a Senna in the snow? And I don't know about you guys, but does anybody else get annoyed with how the snow randomly comes in and out of nowhere? I mean, I could be racing one time in a hyper race, and all of a sudden it starts snowing, and sometimes the cars get oddly affected by that. But let's take a look at the interior now. So I really do like how the interior of this car looks. Now, unfortunately, you cannot move the actual dashboard down like the real Senna and or the 720S could do the same thing, but nonetheless, the dash does look really good still. I mean, you have the RPM reader there, which looks pretty nice. Rev that up a little bit. Then you have the gear reader, and then it looks like the temperature of the tires, which obviously is there for like detail, but I would say the overall detail of this car does look really nice. Now, guys, let's go do a top speed test on this vehicle to see what it can get to. Also, do not mind the down pole there because I ran into that when I was about to record. But nonetheless, let's go see what this thing can actually get to. So I did notice the first impressions of this when I was driving it, that you will have to shift a lot more if you guys are in manual. So do keep that in mind. Obviously, having 7 or 8 gears really does make a big difference on the vehicle. But let's see what this thing can actually get to. If you guys are wondering, by the way, I am also running the Nitro Chemist set just to get the actual top speed of this vehicle, because if you run like Loot Digger or Score Breaker, it's going to be a lot harder to get this car to its actual top speed. So let's see what we can get to here, hitting Nitro Chemist a little bit before I get to this turn. Ooh, I think went around that turn nicely. So it looks like the car has really good handling so far. Speed up a little bit there. So 296 miles an hour it looks like the car can get to, which honestly really isn't too bad. That's actually on par with a lot of the other hypercars. Now, I definitely wouldn't say 295 miles an hour is slow, but it's definitely going to be a little lower than some of the best hypercars in the game. But to be honest, that extra 10 miles an hour really isn't going to make much of a difference depending on the track you guys are on, because most of the cars will do about 290 on those anyway. Now, if you were to do something like the Detroit or the Dallas race, then having an extra 10 to 15 miles an hour will make a big difference on those races. But luckily, 295 miles an hour should be plenty for most of the summit races that we've seen, unless one of the races are one of the longer hypercar races. So for the McLaren Senna, I have actually decided to take this car into the lovely Bronx hypercar race, because this one has a nice mix of like top speed areas and a lot of turning as well to really see how this car can do. So the first thing I really noticed when driving the Senna is, for one, the handling of this car is definitely really good compared to some of the other hypercars I have used. I have noticed this car turning a lot better than I initially thought, and from what I can also see, the brakes are insanely good on this car, which is really good to see as well, because sometimes the brakes on some of these hypercars are awful and they literally can barely stop even when downshifting in manual. The car literally still does not stop at all, and my goodness, does that frustrate me. But nonetheless, I have to admit, this car is handling very nicely. The overall stability, it doesn't like lose itself or spin out, so I do think the Senna is going to be really good in that matter. Now, when it comes to the overall speed, so I'm sure many people are wondering, is the Senna going to actually be very usable and or good in summits and stuff like that, or even using it on PvP? To be honest, I think this car will be just fine to use in summits and all that. I think it's actually really good. Now, if you guys actually decided to do one of the longer hyper races like the New York one or even the Dallas one, then having this car might be a bit of an issue only on the longer highway areas, because something like the Bugatti that does 300 plus miles an hour, or even the Lamborghini Agosta, which somehow does 317, will definitely beat this thing obviously on the highway. But luckily on a lot of these shorter hypercar races, now, I would say many factors go into these cars as well. Now, top speed really does help, but it's really not the entire thing as well. Now, I noticed cars with good brakes, handling, and overall speed can normally beat the Bugatti on some of the races as well. The Bugatti is just insanely fast, obviously, overall, but there's some cars that still do things a little bit better. Like, for example, the handling of this Senna, I think is going to be top tier without a doubt in my mind. And for some weird reason, I've been noticing the more I drive it, the brakes seem to be almost as good as the Koenigsegg 1, which I would consider that car to have the best brakes in the hypercar class, hands down. And I think the Senna is going to be pretty close to it. Now, if you guys were wondering, by the way, does top speed really make that much of a big difference on the hypercars? I know a lot of people are wondering this, and to be honest, like I mentioned before, depending on the race you might actually be doing, I really don't think it's going to matter all that much, mainly because you really need to be able to turn as well. A lot of these races have tight turns and a lot of areas where the car needs to be fast overall. Now, what I mean by that is going to be the overall acceleration of the car. Now, how does this thing actually accelerate in like 4th, 5th, 6th gear? Can it actually get out of its own way? Because I did notice some of the hypercars struggle to accelerate to higher speeds, which I've been noticing. For example, some of the like the Pagani Huayra or even the McLaren F1 seem to have some issues in higher speeds sometimes compared to other ones like the Bugatti or even the Lamborghini Agosta. And I would even say the Senna is going to be out of this category, which is awesome. This car actually seems pretty dang decent. I'll be doing more testing on this thing on longer hyper races to really see how it can do. I do want to take it into the New York one because I feel like that is like one of the best races to grind for money. So how is the Senna going to actually do in a longer race like that? But anyway, guys, let me know your guys' thoughts on the new McLaren Senna in the comments below, and here are the settings I'm currently running on this vehicle.